Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Mark Felton Productions, awesome channel, preemptive like, World War II Allied firearms in German service. Sure. Hello, my name is Connor, I hope you're all doing well. Let's learn.
It takes a lot of resources, time, money, and manpower to build weapons, so if you can get your hands on them free of charge, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. This was certainly the attitude of Nazi Germany during its occupations of Austria and Czechoslovakia before the war, and the initial...
You will? Hey, preemptive. Sorry guys, that was another video I was uploading.
Victories over Poland and Western European nations in 1930 before the war, and the initial victories over Poland and Western European nations in 1939-40, which brought it a deluge of foreign small arms. Quite a number of nations use various types of Mauser rifles, and these could obviously be reused fairly easily. All captured weapons were checked for serviceability and repaired if necessary. And as the Wehrmacht hoovered up enemy maintenance units, warehouses, and even armaments factories, spare parts were not a problem either. Certain enemy weapons, for example Czech machine guns and FN pistols, were adopted by both frontline and reserve German units. The Czechoslovak and Belgian armaments industries were very important to the Germans, who mass-produced weapons from those factories for their own forces.
Look at that. Is there a similar amount? I mean, that seems like a lot of factories, and I'm guessing that during wartime, especially World War II, the amount of like factory, like area, like giant factories must have been enormous, and so I wish this was like a colorized photo.
A good example was the Browning high-power semi-automatic pistol. Due to German control of the FN plant in Belgium, high powers with German Waffenamt markings were produced for the German military under the designation Pistole 640B, the B for Belgisch or Belgian. It was mostly issued to Waffen-SS and Luftwaffe parachute troops. It is a fact that most German frontline units only used German-issue weapons, the Mauser 98K rifle, the MP40 machine pistol, and the MG34 machine gun, amongst others. However, all the captured enemy weapon types received German designations, and if I was to make a video about all of them, it would take until next Christmas. Hundreds of enemy weapon types received German designations, and were remarked by German armourers with Waffenamt markings, signalling this new ownership. Germany filled hundreds of warehouses with every kind of weapon for the rainy day when they might come in handy. Following the invasion of the Soviet Union, Germany again captured tens of millions of enemy firearms.
I'm not saying Germany was the only nation to think this way. I'm sure most nations did, but in terms of, I feel like the superiority kind of complex was definitely heavily in the German mindset in World War II, and like etching the like their symbols on these guns. I don't know, for some reason a part of me thought they'd be like, oh, those aren't German guns, I don't want to use those, but then again it's wartime and maybe I'm just stupid, and no, never mind.
Soviet Union, Germany again captured tens of millions of enemy firearms. Many became firm favourites with German soldiers, who used captured trophy weapons unofficially, while some were actually redistributed officially to German forces. One of the most popular, judging by film and photographs, was the excellent PPSH-41 submachine gun, with its distinctive 71-round drum magazine. The Germans rechambered many in 9x19mm parabellum, and also issued
Oh wow, look at that, a periscope.
Rechambered many in 9x19mm parabellum, and also issued a special 32-round box magazine.
I was not ready for that. I didn't know.
In German service, the PPSH-41 was called the MP717R, the R standing for Russian. German language manuals were even printed for the PPSH-41 for distribution to troops. The other Soviet weapon very often seen in German use was the Tokarev SVT-40 semi-automatic rifle with a 10-round detachable box magazine.
I like that. Guys, keep in mind, I've never even held a gun before. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going off of what I'm seeing.
The Germans were short of self-loading rifles, and hundreds of thousands of captured ones were pressed into German service, and the SVT's gas operating action also aided development of the German Gewehr 43 rifle. The war in North Africa and Italy saw the Germans capture huge amounts of British and Empire firearms. Here we see German soldiers target shooting with the British short magazine Lee-Enfield rifle. The Germans never adopted the type for the front line, but appear to have used some Lee-Enfield sniper rifles, as seen here during the Battle of Normandy in 1944. It was also in North Africa that the Germans first...
Isn't that like a really old gun? Or like, not really old, but I mean, by the time World War II came around, wasn't it already like 70 years old or something like that, 80 years old? Because I think in the History Hit video where they were testing, the two guys testing guns from a gun from the 15th, 17th, and 19th century. I think this looks like the 19th century one, like the very early model of a kind of clip in a rifle.
But appear to have used some Lee-Enfield sniper rifles, as seen here during the Battle of Normandy in 1944. It was also in North Africa that the Germans first captured large stocks of American weapons, and throughout this campaign and the war in Italy, M1 Garands and M1 carbines often appeared in the hands of German soldiers. The M1 in German service was called the Selbstladerkarabiner, or self-loading rifle 455A, the A for America. Interestingly, this weapon was later issued to post-war West German police and border guards in Bavaria, who used the type well into the 1950s. Another iconic Allied weapon, occasionally used by German troops, was the M1928 Thompson submachine gun.
One of the few
Here we see
guns
a
I
German
know.
officer examining
Thank
an
you, Call of
example
Duty.
captured off the Canadians following the disastrous Dieppe raid in France in 1942. Many ex-British examples were captured in North Africa and later on in Italy from both British Commonwealth and US forces.
Like that gun and the M1 Garand are like the two kind of guns I associate with World War II because of Call of Duty games.
Many ex-British examples were captured in North Africa and later on in Italy from both British Commonwealth and US forces. Some even turned up in German hands on the Eastern Front, as seen here. The British BREN light machine gun was never a standard-issue German weapon, but some were taken up as trophies on occasion. This German paratrooper in Normandy evidently proud of his battlefield pickup.
He's happy.
Interestingly, the BREN's ancestor, the Czech ZB VZ26, was used by the Germans, including the Waffen-SS forces during World War II. Indeed, huge numbers of Czech and French machine guns were used by static fortress divisions manning the Atlantic Wall defences, or were used to provide heavy firepower at German prisoner of war, labour and concentration camps, freeing up more modern weapons like the MG42 for frontline service. The British dropped thousands of cheap Sten submachine guns to resistance networks across Europe, and many were captured by the Germans, or later captured off British and Commonwealth troops.
The clip on the side is interesting. I would guess that obviously I don't know anything about gun construction, and clearly they thought about the construction of the gun, but I just feel like the extra weight on one side would kind of make your aim a bit strange. No? Maybe
across
not.
Europe. Many were captured by the Germans, or later captured off British and Commonwealth troops in Italy and Normandy. So
was pretty
impressed
cool.
were they by the plumber's abortion, as the British nicknamed this simple select-fire blowback submachine gun, that they made a copy of it, the MP38, as an emergency last-ditch weapon in 1945. As mentioned, another huge windfall of well-made weapons came to the Germans in December 1944 during the Ardennes Offensive, when tens of thousands of US small arms were captured from surrendering GIs. Many German soldiers armed themselves with M1 carbines, Thompsons or Garands. Quite a number of British Sten guns were also used in this campaign by German paratroopers. Many Germans also carried Italian firearms, taken when Italy changed sides in 1943. The Beretta MB38
Wow, it was that early?
and its various models were very popular with both Italian fascist troops from 1943 to 45 and German troops, in particular elite forces within the Waffen-SS and the paratroopers, who appreciated these very well-made weapons with their impressive firepower and
I'm sorry, the memes of, like, Germany always gets stuck on, like, a team with noobs and has to carry them.
accuracy. In fact, the wartime Beretta MB38, updated in 1949, was called the MP1 in Germany and was used to arm the new West German army, the Bundeswehr, until 1959.
Isn't it weird that that's kind of what modern US helmets sort of look like today, but like with more like cloth on the outside? You know, it seems like, you know, maybe am I just imagining things?
And the Bundesgrenzschutz, the Federal Border Service, until the 1960s. As the war drew to a close, the millions of stored foreign weapons held by Germany were issued to reserve units, and in particular the Volkssturm, Hitler's desperate final militia of old men and young boys, creating a logistical nightmare due to all the different calibers of ammunition in service. This was graphically demonstrated during the Battle of Berlin in April to May 1945, when Volkssturm units were armed with antique German rifles going back to the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 71, but also with many captured foreign rifles from France, Britain, the Soviet Union, and Italy, and many more besides. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.
This could be a cool video too. Good video. Mark Felton, awesome channel, phenomenal. Like he's even on like some history documentaries on TV, and I'll see Mark Felton and get excited. I hope you're all doing well. If not, chin up. You'll be good soon. Don't worry. I hope you learned something or enjoyed that or can help me out with questions. Bye, guys.